Hi, it's Dianeswan here. Welcome to my channel. So in the preview there you actually saw me using the Yes paste to stick the last pages in what was my red journal that I was using for other projects. So I'm getting close to the end of this journal, which is fantastic. And so following on from my stencil making video, I'm now using those pages that I created in that video. So I'm using the decoupage glue from Little Birdie, and I'm using a brush that is a Mod Podge brush. It actually is it doesn't have a deeper bristle set, it's actually smaller, so it gives you a lot more control on getting the glue out from underneath your decoupage pieces. You still have to be very gentle when it comes to napkins and some of the finer tissue papers that you can use, but with this Deli paper that I painted and stamped and stenciled through, etc., I can really get a good seal onto the page, and using whichever glue medium that I have used so far, I have had no problems with this particular brush. So I'm actually very pleased with it. So I'm just on this spread, I'm just gluing random pieces that I tore off those Deli pages, which was a 12 by 12 sheet, and I cut in half. One side has the stencils being used with paint, and the other half I painted the Deli page and then used the stencils with the toothbrush, makeup brush, and some archival inks. So just in my normal method, I'm just going with the flow. Now I've spoken to a few friends and that, and rather than being someone that probably instructs, I show my process, and that's what I've been trying to put across. A lot of people don't do things pre-thought out. They just use their intuition and just go with what happens next, basically. And that's my style. I use a lot of layers, mainly because I'm possibly not finished with that page, whether it's because emotionally I need to go deeper, or it's just a case of I may not be happy with the way it looks. It's everybody's individual journey, basically, and journal pages in a lot of ways are very personal to that particular artist. So what I show in my art journal videos is somewhat my process. So basically what you would class, what I'm doing at the moment, is breaking the page. So even though this page, because it's an upcycled novel and it has words all over it, it's still a blank page. So putting on this decoupage, or the Deli paper that I made, and putting it over the page, I'm breaking that blank page. So as you can see, when I do my decoupaging, I put the paste, the glue, the medium all over my page. The reason being, it is a medium, and therefore it's sealing all the page from whatever the step is I go next. So whether that be watercolour, acrylics, inks, crayons, pencils, it seals. And then depending on the medium I will use next will depend on how that works with the page. So for pencils, they possibly won't grab onto this particular decoupage glue. Acrylics, yes, they'll have no problems. Inks, as in archival inks, not a problem. I haven't tried on this particular glue sprays the water activated sprays, but it's a medium, so you've placed it on there. So especially with watercolor, they will still work on this surface. But I'm just drying this off now, and while I did this decoupage, I left it at a normal speed. So I'm just going to speed this up a little bit, and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, back now. So what I've decided to do now is actually add some washi tape. Now, those who have seen my videos before, I use washi tape a lot. I find it's a great additive to the texture in the background. Depending on what happens, it could be that it all gets hidden, but I don't have a problem with that, mainly because it does give texture. When you look at your art piece, if it's totally changed, if I've covered it all up, if I look deeper, I can see the ridging, and it adds a lot of depth to my final product, and I'm happy with that. So I'll just stick some washi tape here and there, and I'm just going to speed up the actual video rather than cut out a section, and therefore we can get past this little bit. Okay, so now I've sped this up, and it'll be sped up for a bit unless I see something that I'll need to slow down so I can discuss it. So I've added all the washi tape onto here. So now I'm actually going to grab some white gesso. This is a Liquitex white gesso, and I'm just using my brayer to spread it over the page. Now that will push some items back, and I'm using one of my gel plates again as my palette, just to make it easier to put some of my paints etc. on. So in between with my gel plates, I often will take a grab of a print, but not all the time. So today I've decided to use actual Dylusion sprays. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to experiment with them and adding them to an impasto gel medium, which is a thicker gel medium. So I'm grabbing a pipette, and I'm going to mix the gel medium and the sprays together. Now look at that lush colour. I'm using one of those bits of wood you get on the back of canvases to mix it, and now I'm just going to paint it on like I would a paint. So basically I've created a coloured gel, which is something that you can do. Usually what these gel mediums are for is acrylic, but it works very well with these sprays, and the colours is like a translucent paint, so it looks absolutely gorgeous. So I'll just keep adding as I can fit them on my palette. I'm just going to mix some colour in with that impasto gel. Now that's a Chromasil product that I'm using for that, and I'm using a big brush to spread it as much as I can, and I'm going over the pre-existing colour that I've put down, creating a meld with those colours so they mix well. So I've probably created a lot more gel than I needed, but those colours are absolutely gorgeous, and it's probably a process that I will use again. So I've grabbed a little bit more of that pink, and I've actually added it again, and it's created a purple. So I'll just take a sip of coffee. Wish I had one here now for myself, but I haven't. So I'm just going to dry this layer off just to set it, and then I will go on to the next part of this journey. So now I'm going to add a yellow. Now these are as bright as I've ever seen with colours, and it's just absolutely amazing the colour that you get. So I'm going to add this yellow over the top, and it's now created a green, so which didn't surprise me. And I'm also grabbing this little piece of wood, and I'm adding some marks on the other colours. So I was quite happy with the way this particular method turned out. It's really interesting. Yeah, so now that this is dry, I'm grabbing a towel and just picking up any of the marks that are still wet. So now I'm going to grab some white paint and a stencil, and I'm going to use a makeup brush, and I'm going to add some white onto the page. This will pop quite well because it will stand out amazingly against the gel that's actually there. Now, one of the reasons I use gel with this is I'm hoping what it will actually do is lock the actual spray in, so therefore creating a non-waterable soluble product once it's dry. That is why I actually created it like this. So I used a shop bought stencil, and right this second I've forgotten the name of it. I got this, I think it's one of the caribou ones, not 100% sure, but the little line ones, that's the one I done in the previous video. So I was quite happy with the result there. So now I'm actually grabbing my pinpoint bottle with the blue, dark blue colour in it, and I've done some squiggle lines, and I've done some fake writing, and I'm going to dry all that off. So I'm going to now grab that rag again and take off any of the colours that has remained. So because I have some of this gel left over, I'm going to go over some of the white that's put there, which will now show the yellow as yellow a little, and etc. So I'm actually adding some more colour and over the white, which will grab the colour that I'm putting over it. And I'm really finding this is actually a lovely rainbow shading page, and it has, well, because of the gel, it actually has a nice little glossy look to it. And there's a nice, from my point of view, from when I was doing it, it actually gave a really good look to what I was creating. So now, I don't think this camera shows up very well because it doesn't have an auto zoom on it, which is a shame. Now I grab my black pin head bottle, and I'm just now adding some more mark making on the page with the black, and then I'm going to grab some Tooly Art paint pens. This is a product of paint pen that I found, and it comes in a couple of different sizes, which are the smaller ones. So this is medium, and then there's a small one. So I'm going to add some more mark making with these over the page. So some white dots, and so I'm actually using the colours that I've already made up. Some yellow circles, and in this process I'm adding it in 3 places and overlapping where I can, and coming from the edge to give some unification of it. So this time I'm doing some little blue lines, and the pink I'm doing some crosses. So it's now getting very rainbowy with the colours that I've got on this palette, and I quite like it, but it's very relaxing. I just really find rainbow colouring quite relaxing, to be honest. So I've gone over with all this mark making, and now I'm going to add a larger white paint. This is a Posca pen and it is the wide nib, and I'm adding some more shapes and lines to the page because white will help make it pop anyway, and the bigger the white, the more pop you'll get for your dollar. So now I'm grabbing another piece of deli paper, and I will also be grabbing a stencil and some stamps to create my wording on my page. So I'm using one of those brushes again to add my black archival ink. I find these really are a really great tool, especially if you hold it the way I do it, because you have so much control, and as long as you've got the stencil held on, it actually stays quite well. So I'm just doing quite a few letters, so I'm actually wanting the word experiment and one of a kind. So, and create. So I've got those words. So now I'm just cutting the wording that I want. So I'm also going to be then using some of my stamps to create the rest of the actual message. So with that, I've got these little ones, and what am I writing? Experiment and make one of a kind. So I'm quite happy with the way this came out, and this would go on. And I've actually cut out the letters in that paper quite finely, and then I'll use a decoupage glue of some sort to stick them on when I'm ready. So now I've decided to grab this dictionary book that I tear out and use as background at times, and I'm grabbing a butterfly stamp and my stamp pad thingy, but I forgot what it's called, and I'm going to stamp that butterfly onto this page, cut it out, and I'm actually going to paint straight onto it with the Dylusions ink to colour it in. So I make sure that the print is as dark as possible, so I've got all the lines. So where it doesn't show up, I will actually keep stamping. Yep, so here you actually see the final cut for the actual page that I've done. Now I haven't added any medium, gesso, anything. This has just been dropped straight onto the paper that is the diary. So it is going to soak up these colours quite quickly. So then I'm grabbing a water brush and I'm just spreading out those colours as much as I can. So wetting the page basically fully and getting them to spread out over the actual paper. So this gets really wet. It gets full of ink, so it's going to be quite coloured in an ink, but as you can see, it gets very, what I would class as dull in the process, but it was so much fun to do. Even the mess on the desktop was fun to do. It's a good experiment. So what I've also just done is I've grabbed another piece of the diary and I'm actually picking up the colour, the water, what was left, and actually put it onto this particular dictionary page, which means I've got something else to use as a decoupage background at another point. So after drying that, I'm now going to use the impasto gel again to actually seal all those colours into that butterfly, so it should hopefully be, then it won't bleed anymore if any water gets on it again. So just giving that a dry, and I'm now adding some more onto the back. So it is totally sealed and therefore it will not bleed. So dry that off as well, and that will give it a nice sealed surface. So it's probably better to leave them to wait. So that's what it looks like on the page. So I'm just going to now get some of the, oh actually no, I'm actually grabbing some white gloss paint and giving some splatters, because you can't do a page without splatters. Well, you can, but it does look better. And I'll just dry those splatters off, because that doesn't take long to dry, but it just means it's not going to smudge when I actually go to glue the next stage down. So, experiment. I'm just trying to work out exactly how I want to place these. And as it's basically, the reason behind my wording is the fact that I experimented with the gel and the Dylusion sprays, because I have most of the colours, or the original batch of the colours, and they sit in my drawer, and they don't get used much. So I thought, well, it's a perfect way to actually use them. So I've just added that Deli Paper that's been stamped on there in that process. So I'm just adding again the decoupage paint all over the page like I've done before, and I'm just going to stick that there. Now my error in this is the fact that I'm using decoupage paper to try to stick down a butterfly that's been coated in gel medium. So it's actually plastic against plastic, so it just takes a little bit longer to actually stay down than what it would be if I'd actually put it on straight on when the back was actually still wet on the butterfly. That's alright, it still stays, which is great. So now I'm grabbing my black uni archival pen, and I'm just going around the butterfly, and I'm going to go over some of the letters on my stamped piece of the Deli Paper, and close off some of the, or go over some of them that aren't as clear as what they probably could be. And from my point of view right here, it looks like it's taking forever, but it's not. So I'm really happy with the colours in this, and it's probably a process I will try. It'll be really nice to do it on a larger spread rather than the small book that this is. It's a great book to play in because you're not pushed to fill it all up. It fills up quickly, so that's the bonus of a smaller actual journal. But at the same time, it doesn't give you, it limits you to what you can experiment with. Now I now know this experiment using the impasto gel and the Dylusion spray works. This is a permanent page. It doesn't need any extra sealing. It's done. So I've learnt something new, and it's something that I can go forward using. So now I'm just adding some of the Tulia paint colours again, just to add a bit more features onto the page. And also grabbing my Stabilo or pencil and activating activating it to add some shadow for my butterfly, and I'm trying to drag it so the butterfly looks like it is coming from the word experiment. That's the idea of the way that's going. Now, Stabilo or pencil is a fantastic tool to have. Yes, it's water activated. Yes, it will reactivate if you haven't activated all of it, but if you let it dry completely, it is water, it stays, it's permanent. But again, as I said, if you've just left a little bit of the pencil unactivated, yes, it will bleed. It's that simple. It's just the way of the magic beast. That is the Stabilo pencil, and it's one of my favourites. That, and I've just used the white Stabilo to now add some light against the shadow, so it looks like the colouring's coming from the top there. And I'm just letting it drip a little bit because I do like a little bit of a run. So I'm just also getting some from the black as well, because once the idea of doing a bleed on a page, the monster takes over on the need to do a bleed on the page. So I've also done that on the other page, and I've actually also used the my black pinhead paint to actually do that, and some of a white one as well, just to get some more bleed going. So I'm going to dry all that off, and that is that journal page completed. So what I will do is I'll go for now, and I will see you in my next video. I hope you enjoyed this process. I hope if you have any questions about my process, you'll drop me a line, put a comment in down below. But I would really appreciate it if you'd like and share the video and comment to help my page, my YouTube channel grow. I know I have trouble with speaking at times and my word of clarity, but that is who I am now. I have terrible memory, but this doing art is what helps me deal with my everyday issues. But enough of that, so thanks for visiting. Bye.